Hello, it's Chris Hynes from Wealthi again. I hope you're doing well. Today I just wanted to run through a quick breakdown talking about the south of Brisbane. I released the video yesterday talking about the north of Brisbane and the opportunity that the north presents up to really Caboolture and just south of the Sunshine Coast. And today I wanted to talk about the southern pocket and the southern corridor of Brisbane. There's just as much happening in the southern pocket. There's some major infrastructure projects that are currently underway that are being developed and being utilised really for the Olympics, the upcoming Olympics. But a lot of the development and infrastructure that we are seeing in that southern region is going to benefit, you could really say, from your Mount Cravat. So on my map here, your Mount Cravat and south from there as well. So we're going to dig into a couple of those projects today. We'll look at some of the population figures as well. We'll run over a couple of areas very briefly that we have our eye on at the moment in this southern corridor, and give you a bit of an understanding of the history of the southern corridor as well. And I think that's really the best starting point for today, is to talk about what's been happening between Brisbane and the Gold Coast over the past 10 or so years. For many of you that may be new to Brisbane or exploring Brisbane as an opportunity, a lot has happened between the Brisbane and the Gold Coast in recent years. Flashback 10 years ago, and there was very little development between Brisbane and the Gold Coast itself. Gradually, we saw house and land developers, people like your Stocklands, your Stockwells, your Mirvacs, and the likes. So your larger, well-known, well-regarded developers buying up sites between Brisbane and the Gold Coast and developing these master plan estates. For example, you've got one here. This is near Ormeau. And it goes the whole way up past Springwood. As you can see, there's a lot of development along the way. There's a lot of industrial sites as well. But gradually, this land is getting filled in more and more as the years go by. And it's getting to the point now where there's really no, you could see here, there's not as much green space as there once was connecting the two cities. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity for investors that are looking to get into a market that's slightly more affordable. And from a tenant perspective, for people moving into the area, you've got the opportunity to either work on the Gold Coast or work in Brisbane. They're both about, you could say, a 30-minute drive away. Connectivity is fantastic. You've got the train line that already runs from Brisbane to the Gold Coast, which is another massive bonus as well. But that's a bit of an understanding of what has been happening in that southern corridor. The south of Brisbane itself has experienced a massive amount of growth. Really onwards from, you could say, your Springwoods, your Slacks Creek, your Daisy Hill, and everything south from there has undergone a massive regeneration and change over the last 5 or 10 years. And there's a lot more growth expected in this corridor now. It's quite a dense corridor in terms of projects that we've seen take place, and now the amount of stock that is available is being snatched up, and more developers are entering that side of town. Now, when we're comparing the north and the south of Brisbane, when we look at the north of Brisbane, and being someone that has lived in Brisbane for many years, the north is almost regarded as you could say, the more affluential. It's a higher price point. You're buying on the north of Brisbane, and it's got this sense of prestige about it. Now, the south of Brisbane also has a sense of prestige. You could say, living in your Bulimbas, your Holland Parks, Woolloongabba, Coorparoo, Camp Hill, Seven Hills, Morningside, and the likes, they are still regarded as top suburbs in Brisbane. It's still a very affluential place, and we're seeing the rippling effect out of Brisbane now. People are moving to places like Stones Corner, Greenslopes, Holland Park, and Carindale, Cannon Hill, and the likes, Tarragindi as well. So it's starting to migrate further south, which is fantastic for investors that are looking to buy something that's more affordable at the moment and benefit from the migration that we're seeing into Brisbane at the moment, into Queensland as a whole, really. And this is a fantastic area to consider. Now, in terms of the projects that are taking place on the south of the river, we'll start off with the Cross River Rail. Now, the Cross River Rail is a new 10.2 kilometre line that will connect Dutton Park, which is in the south of Brisbane, to Bowen Hills, which is in the north of Brisbane, near Albion, near your Newsteads as well, which will include 5.9 kilometres of twin tunnels under the Brisbane River and CBD. So that's going to be fantastic. Now, the suburbs on the south of Brisbane that are going to benefit substantially from this investment and from this project itself are going to be places like your Salisbury, your Rockley, your Maruka, Urongpilly, Uronga and Fairfield. And to give you an idea of where those places are located on the map, give me 2 seconds. So if we're looking at the south of Brisbane and those areas themselves, Urongpilly is this location where my mouse is now in terms of the city. The city's the top of my screen. So you've got Urongpilly that is located here. You've got Uronga in this little peninsula as well. You've got Rockley, which sits just below that as well. Oxley to the left. Salisbury is in that region as well. So that is you could say the Southern Corridor that will benefit substantially in terms of things that are close by to your Salisburys, your Marukas, your Robertsons. In the immediate vicinity, they have the Griffith University Nathan campus. So that's one of the larger Griffith University campuses that occupies this site here, where my mouse is now, where it's Griffith University. You've also got a Westfield Garden City, so that is in Mount Cravat. It's about a 10-minute drive from places like Salisbury and Rockley. You've also got another Griffith University campus in Mount Cravat itself. So you've got your amenity, you've got your education as well. In terms of employment, Rockley itself and Salisbury, Coopers Plains and the likes, this is quite an industrial location or industrial place. There's a lot of larger format warehouses. You've got your manufacturing businesses out there as well, and it's kind of, you could say, an employment hub for the industrial side of Brisbane. So it's a logistical hub as well, and it's somewhere that does provide a lot of employment for residents of Brisbane, particularly on the south side of town, and that's another bonus when we're looking at our investments. If people are buying properties, let's say a little bit further south, for example, in somewhere like your Sunnybank or just south of Sunnybank, you've got immediate access to employment within a 5-10 minute drive as well. So they are some things to consider in terms of Sunnybank, actually, and that's another point worth mentioning. But Sunnybank is regarded as, you could say, the Southeast Asian hub of Brisbane. There's a lot of people that live in Sunnybank. It's a very cultural place, and there's a lot of opportunity for overseas migration or overseas migrants looking for employment in Sunnybank as well. So that's another thing to consider. Now, in terms of a second project, so you have the Gabba. So currently, Brisbane Gabba is going to be the main stadium for the Olympic Games, and as you can see by this article here, there's a new $1 billion stadium, or renovation, you could say, of Gabba, which is going to be redeveloping the stadium itself to make it capable of hosting more people, having more people within the stadium itself, having an Olympics track around the pitch as well. So that's going to be a massive boost to the south of Brisbane as well. It's going to be almost an attraction, and that is $1 billion of investment that's being thrown into Wollongabba to really develop the Gabba itself and make it suitable for the Olympic Games. As well as that, the Cross River Rail Station for Wollongabba, that's going to be going out further south to your Salisbury, your Rockley, and the likes, that will be going through the Gabba as well. So you've got fantastic connectivity to both the south, or further south of Brisbane, heading towards the Gold Coast, and then you're going to have access to Brisbane itself, making it really easy to commute into town or commute further south, depending on where you are working as well. So they're worth pointing out as well. There is also the Brisbane Metro, which is being developed. So Brisbane Metro was originally proposed to be high-frequency subway, but has now progressed into an electric busway system. The buses will be 24 metres long and splitting over 3 carriages. Services and peak hours will run every 3 minutes, connecting you to Brisbane. Now, in terms of the lines itself, so we're going to have the line from the Royal Brisbane Women's Hospital, which essentially is in Bowen Hills. Bowen Hills will connect you all the way through to UQ, which is in St Lucia, on the other side of Brisbane. And then we're going to have the other line, which will connect you to Roma Street Station, which is the main train station in Brisbane. That's in fact where they're looking at currently, or where they proposed having Brisbane One, which is going to be an event space and you could say an event space and a stadium itself as well. So that's another significant investment into Brisbane. But that line, or that first line, Metro Line 1, is going to connect you from Roma Street Parklands or Roma Street Station all the way down to 8 Mile Plains. To give you an idea of where 8 Mile Plains is on a map as well, 8 Mile Plains sits just above Springwood, and I'll bring that up in a second. So 8 Mile Plains is just here. So from 8 Mile Plains, which is quite south of Brisbane, you can get into central Brisbane, and they're anticipating travel times are going to be around 30 minutes to get into town. So that's another significant benefit of buying on the south of Brisbane. As you can see, some stations that are going to benefit substantially from the introduction of this line are going to be Mount Cravat, your Upper Mount Cravat, 8 Mile Plains, Nathan, which is where the Griffith University campus is, Holland Park West, Greenslopes, Buranda, Woolloongabba, and then we get further into town as well. So that's going to be a fantastic bonus to the south of Brisbane, really making that connectivity that little bit more easier, especially if you're commuting into town and you don't have a car park in the city, let's say, and you have an option, an alternative option to really make it easier and more accessible to get into the city for work. Now, in terms of the Brisbane Metro depot, so that line that we just discussed, they need a metro station or a metro depot in Brisbane somewhere. They're developing 3 to my understanding, and one of them is going to be located down in the south of Brisbane. This one that we're looking at right now is going to be in the south of Brisbane in Rochdale, and Rochdale is, I will just bring that up on my map quickly. So Rochdale is this pocket that you can see here that's outlined, and they will be developing one of the depots there for this new metro line connecting you into the city. Now, in terms of what the station is going to offer, it's going to offer and support 170 local jobs, store and maintain a fleet of Brisbane Metro vehicles, and charge them in under 6 minutes. So it's another reason, or another employment hub within the region, and another driver that people will be looking to move out there as well. So that is a little bit about projects that are going to benefit the south, that I think will add a lot of value to those regions in the south of Brisbane. I briefly wanted to run through the growth that they've seen in the south of Brisbane, and we need to look at both Brisbane and we need to look at Logan population numbers, because when you're looking at some of these southern regions within the south of Brisbane, some of them are within the Logan catchment. I'll show you a quick map here so you have a bit of an idea. So your places like your Rochdale, your Underwood, your Logan, of course, your Woodridge, Springwood, Slacks Creek, and the likes, they are classified in the Logan pocket. So they really border that southern region of Brisbane, where we're seeing a lot of this growth at the moment through the corridor, of course, that neighbours the highway that runs down to the Gold Coast. Now, in terms of population figures, Brisbane's population currently sits at about 2.4 million people in the larger area itself. So including all of the little pockets of Brisbane, currently sits at about 2.4 million people. Population growth for Brisbane itself, and as you can see by these numbers on the right hand side of my screen, sorry, it won't let me select that, but you can see that by 2023 it's projected to consist of about 2.5 million, and seeing some very steady growth of about 30,000 people a year for the next few years. So that's some solid growth into Brisbane. These numbers have been significantly higher over the course of the pandemic. Of course, we've seen a lot of people interstate migrate, move up from your Sydneys, move up from your Melbournes, and move into Brisbane, which has really boosted the demand for Queensland property. And I think that we'll continue to see a lot of migration to Brisbane. Now, from an affordability standpoint, it's a much more affordable place to move in comparison to your Sydney and Melbourne. So now that we've got borders reopening, restrictions are being eased, I think we're going to see a lot more people migrate to Brisbane. Of course, we've also got the development of the new airport that has been proposed as well, the new international terminal. We've seen the new runway be completed as well. So that's just going to drive more people to Brisbane, particularly that Southeast Asian corridor, or the Southeast Asian pocket. It's the first, you could say, the first large Australian city that is close to all of those regions in the south of Asia. And I think that that's a massive driver to Brisbane's growth. I think that we'll continue to see a lot of migration from Southeast Asia into Brisbane, into the Gold Coast, into the Sunshine Coast. I think Queen's Wharf as well is going to have a massive part to play for that, having a new casino, a Ritz-Carlton hotel, and it really will put Brisbane on that map that little bit more. So a combination of both the Olympic Games, Queen's Wharf, the projects that we're seeing that are going to connect the south of Brisbane to the CBD of Brisbane, and population growth in the right direction, migration into the city as well, is going to be a massive boost for that Southern Corridor. So I hope that's given you a nice little concise breakdown of some of the reasons why we really like the south of Brisbane at the moment. If you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or the team. We're all more than happy to have a chat with each and every one of you. Anyway, I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will speak to you all very soon. Thank you.